In this video, I would like to share my story of how I actually got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Hi guys! So I was only like 18 or 19 years old when I made that YouTube video, so I figured I would make like an updated version of my story and kind of add a perspective of just kind of looking back on those years and just like going through the diagnosis and all of that type of stuff. So I was diagnosed when I was 18 years old and I was in high school during this time. When I was going through the symptoms starting and everything, we thought that it was at first an injury from doing cross country, from running, because I decided to run a half marathon in the middle of cross country season. So it was just like a lot of extra stuff going on. Plus I was in marching band. So obviously we just thought it was an injury. It was also in one knee. That's kind of where the pain and the swelling and the inflammation started, was just in my right knee. So, I mean, when you're really active and you're doing things and you're so young and you have pain in just one area, usually that's a sign of an injury. So, I mean, I don't really blame the doctors for thinking that at first. I thought it was an injury for a long time, because why would it be rheumatoid arthritis if it's in one joint, especially a larger joint? So when it started, it actually began after I ran my half marathon, which is kind of crazy, and I still don't really know why. My knee swelled up to like the size of a grapefruit. Like, it was really, really big. And just like had a lot of fluid. It was really painful to walk on. I obviously could not run during that time. I had to stop. I couldn't walk very well. I had to use like an ACE wrap around it for compression. I went to the doctor, and obviously that's when they thought it was an injury. So what they did was they gave me an anti-inflammatory medication, and they drained the fluid out of my knee, all that good stuff. But the problem is that like the fluid came back within 2 hours later, just as much as it was before. So it was really strange that happened, and apparently that like wasn't a normal thing. So this all pretty much began in September, just for reference, I guess. And when they couldn't really find anything in my fluid and they just didn't really know what was going on, I was referred to an orthopedic doctor who eventually was able to give me a knee scope, and we kind of had to fight for that because I had like an MRI and x-rays and all of that, and like obviously you can't really see like ligament tears in an x-ray. So the MRI we thought would help, and we couldn't see anything in the MRI either. So nothing was like mechanically wrong with my knee, but the fact that it was like swelling up so much and basically it looked like I was injured, like that was an issue. We finally got to have a knee scope done because the doctor thought that it was a meniscus tear. I thought it could be a meniscus tear. That's kind of what we were thinking, just because it's very common for like what I was doing. Plus it was only in one knee. So we did the knee scope, and he found absolutely nothing wrong with me except for the fact that I had so much inflammation for some reason. And they called it synovitis. That's when your synovial membrane of your joint is super inflamed. So he scraped out the synovial membrane of my knee, or the synovitis, whatever. He scraped it out, and basically, I mean, that's all he could do because there was nothing else there or present at the time. And he decided to test it for like everything. I did like a biopsy to see if it was like some type of cancer, to see like what was going on. And everything came back normal except for the fact that my ANA was positive, which is something that detects something autoimmune is going on. So then I was referred to a rheumatologist, and at that time, I wasn't having too many other symptoms besides that one knee swelling up, except for like my other knee was starting to hurt and starting to swell, but I thought it was just like overcompensating for my injured knee since I had the knee scope. And yeah, so that was pretty much what was going on at that time. I did get into the rheumatologist, and obviously it takes a long time to get into a rheumatologist, especially if you are a new patient. So I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that did take over a month or maybe 2 months to get into him in order to be tested and everything. So I was tested for a bunch of different things. Everything came back negative except for like the Lyme's disease one. I remember that coming back inconclusive, which was really strange. But then they redid that and that came back negative as well. So at that point, like, there wasn't a lot that he could do, especially since I wasn't having like the normal symptoms of RA or any like lupus or anything like that, and my blood tests were fine. So if I remember correctly, what he did was put me on prednisone, just for the inflammation and everything. So I was on prednisone. I don't think that did anything, if I remember right. I don't remember ever feeling relief from prednisone, which is really weird because I know that it's like super makes a significant difference for a lot of people. But for some reason, I literally do not remember not being in pain when I was on prednisone. So I don't think that worked out very well. Also, after that appointment, as my knee was healing up, I started to get symptoms other than joint pain, such as like a lot of fatigue. I had a low-grade fever, it seemed all the time. My lymph nodes were swollen. And then joint pain started kind of happening in other areas. So like my elbows were hurting. For some reason, my spine was hurting really bad. My neck was hurting. Like I couldn't move without pain. Like it got very bad very quickly. So when that started happening, obviously I couldn't go to school. It was just like a big mess from that, in that aspect of my life. I just couldn't do a lot of things, and not everybody was very kind or understanding about it, especially at my retail job that I worked. I worked at a consignment store, and my manager like demanded a doctor's note every time I worked, pretty much, because I couldn't stand for long periods of time, and it was just like a big thing. I just hated going through that. Because obviously when people are not understanding and they think that you're lazy or they think that you're faking it, it's very frustrating and it's very annoying. And it makes you feel really bad because like you can't control what's happening to you, and you don't even have an explanation because you don't have a diagnosis. All you can say is that like I'm in pain, like I can't do this physically. You can't say like, oh, I actually have a broken leg so I can't do this, and then they would be like, oh yeah, that's fine, that's understandable. When you're in pain and people can't see it, it's just a whole different beast to tackle. And especially if you don't have a diagnosis, like I know that you shouldn't have to have a diagnosis in order for people to understand what you're going through, but like in this world, you kind of do. And even if you have the diagnosis and tell people, I actually have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or whatever chronic illness it is, even then people are like, okay, like, and why can't you do this or why can't you do that? So anyways, enough of that little rant. Yeah, that was a big mess as well. It just hurt to move. It just really was really painful. And I went back to the rheumatologist got tested again, and then he diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis, or juvenile rheumatoid arthritis technically. But yeah, that is how I got diagnosed. And I remember it being February, I believe, the beginning of February when I got the diagnosis. And I remember feeling very relieved. I remember feeling like a huge weight off of my shoulders because I finally knew what was wrong with me and that I wasn't crazy. And you know, once you know what's wrong with you, then you can move forward and treat it. But you know, like obviously it's not a good thing to be diagnosed with any kind of like chronic health condition. Nobody wants that. But I mean, if it's gonna happen, if you're having the symptoms, like you want some type of explanation so that way you can move forward and take care of it the best that you can. So I was really happy. I mean, that way I was like one step toward being well. I obviously didn't know a lot about RA when I was first diagnosed with it. I did a lot of research because, you know, when you're diagnosed, yes, you feel that initial relief, but then you're like, okay, now what do I do? And you feel like a lot of like overwhelm because there's so much information out there. There's just so much. And you don't know like what's going to happen to you, if you're going to get better, if you're not going to get better, if it's going to get worse. Like you just truly don't know, and then you begin to feel a little bit scared. So my rheumatologist put me on like Plaquenil, sulfasalazine, I remember, and I don't know if I did methotrexate the first time he gave me meds, if I don't remember all of the details correctly, but I remember that the medications did nothing. They did not work for me at all. So then I quickly had to add in the methotrexate, still nothing, but I think my labs improved a little bit. So then I was put on Humira in May, and it took a long time between February and May. I'm thankful it wasn't as long as what I've heard from some people about like having to get on a biologic, but it was just like, it just felt like a hassle, like just dealing with insurance and trying to figure out like, you know, how I'm going to get it and all of that fun stuff. So I started Humira in May, that following May, and thankfully it started feeling a lot better, and it's still working for me like 6 years later, which I am very, very thankful for, because I know that's for some people, for most people, it's very hard to find the right medication, and sometimes your body adapts to certain medications, which makes it very difficult because then you have to find another one that works. So right now I'm in a good position. My labs have been really good so far. I still have flare-ups occasionally, but not nearly as bad as it was before. When I do get flare-ups, it's not as much joint pain anymore as it is more like fatigue, low-grade fever, like an achy type feeling. But I mean, all my organs are fine. My joints are not damaged. I'm very, very blessed with how I have been doing since I got diagnosed with RA, because like when I made that video 4 years ago, I really had no idea like what was going to happen in the future. I had no idea that like 6 years from then, like that I would be well. I would still be, you know, doing my best. I would be active. I would be able to run without joint pain. I would be able to get back into fitness. But yeah, I'm very, very, very thankful about where I am right now. Do I wish that I didn't have RA still? Yes. I will always want to not have rheumatoid arthritis. But I'm also thankful for the fact that I get to help other people with arthritis and chronic joint pain kind of get to a place where like I wanted to be when I was first diagnosed, because I was very into fitness before being diagnosed with RA, as I've said like a million times, and it was like devastating to have that like part ripped away from me almost, and not being able to get back into it. So it's really like a blessing for me to be able to help other people get back into fitness, or even just get started with fitness, and know that like fitness is a good thing for people with chronic joint pain and arthritis. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be something you can't do. Like, fitness is different for everybody, and just because you have arthritis or a chronic joint pain or limitations of any kind doesn't mean that you can't have your own fitness journey. It doesn't mean that you can't reach your goal. And I am a very big believer in that. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make this as kind of an updated version of how I was diagnosed, and I'm pretty sure I remember to cover everything. Some of the stuff I just like kind of blocked out of my mind, so I apologize if my story was a little like jumpy, but I was trying very hard to remember like in the order in which things happened, because it was really kind of weird, like going back and forth between the orthopedic doctor and the rheumatologist, and that was a little bit of a back and forth issue. But yeah, so anyways, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below if you want to see specific video content. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos, and follow me on Instagram if you want more tips on fitness with arthritis or chronic joint pain. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day today. Bye.